Greetings freelancers, my name is FailureToReport, and today we're going to be talking about Anthem as she currently sits in the VIP demo. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, if you don't know what Anthem is, that's okay, because we'll get into all that. But a snapshot would be, Anthem is BioWare's excuse for why Mass Effect Andromeda was so embarrassing. And it's their latest upcoming title taking place in an entirely new IP. So, let's go ahead and get into this a little bit. Anthem takes place in a sci-fi universe where humans have found themselves on a planet called Anthem. It's a crazy landscape filled with deadly wildlife, angry aliens, and a bad guy human faction. This game is played as a third-person shooter, very much in the vein of The Division, like incredibly similar to The Division in terms of gunplay, abilities, and enemy kill times. However, unlike The Division, Anthem quickly establishes that it is a very mobile shooter, where The Division is all about bunkering in cover and planning each dash to minimize your chance of being mowed down while out of cover. Anthem's combat leans more towards games like Warframe, focusing heavily on being agile and on the move. Anthem also distinguishes itself from games like The Division, Destiny, or even Mass Effect in that power uses are frequently part of your toolkit. Abilities come off cooldown very quickly and play a pivotal role in dropping bodies, especially playing in groups, as Anthem has a combo system that Final Fantasy Online players will probably feel pretty familiar with. So, if you already knew what Anthem was, you might be asking, how is it? Let's get into that. First and foremost, this is not Destiny or Warframe. The gameplay in Anthem feels very similar to Mass Effect's later titles, blended into The Division. It's incredibly enjoyable. While not every class, or Javelin as they are called, shares this Interceptor's level of mobility, the ability to fly on demand, dash, and hover over the battlefield makes the combat feel incredibly fresh in comparison to other games. I am constantly forgetting to make use of the various methods of engaging or pulling back from an overwhelming fight because Anthem has so many options for how you can employ your character that other games just simply don't have. And it's been a real joy to constantly be relearning how I approach a shooter like this. My biggest gripe in Anthem's character controls is the lack of crouching, but aside from that, movement just feels like some of the best I've played in a very long time, for the most part. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice after leaving the city hub area is flying. And this one is one of the biggest things BioWare should be looking at improving, because if you're playing this on a mouse and keyboard, brace yourself for cancer. Flying in Anthem is done through a virtual joystick setting. Even when using a mouse and keyboard, your mouse inputs are essentially emulating a joystick or a gamepad, which means your mouse's position is treated like a joystick. If you move your mouse upwards to fly up, you need to move your mouse back down or you will constantly be pitching upwards until you center out. Another flying focused game which handles mouse flying very well is War Thunder. In War Thunder, there are two different types of mouse controls. The first is virtual joystick, which is almost exactly what Anthem uses, in which your mouse simulates a joystick input, and you need to constantly manage how you are pitching and turning. The other type of flight control is mouse aim, in which you point in the direction you want to fly your craft, and the game steers accordingly to zero out on that location that you're looking at. With a mouse, this makes flying incredibly easy because you don't need to worry about pitching, rolling, or yaw. You look where you want to go with your camera, and it is so. Now, while a lot of War Thunder players feel like mouse aim is cheesy or cheap in War Thunder, Anthem isn't a flight combat game. It's not PvP, and one of the most jarring and irritating methods of traveling the map in Anthem would benefit greatly if BioWare had put another option of flight controls similar to this for PC, since it's clearly a console port in terms of their control scheme. And while the flight controls aren't a deal breaker, they do take away from an otherwise incredibly fluid feeling gameplay. Getting into a chaotic period of gameplay feels incredible when you can dash, jump, and fly your way around the battlescape. And I would be really hard pressed to come up with another game besides Warframe that feels this agile while playing. Unfortunately though, Anthem's biggest problems are its clearly console ported UI. If you're looking to play this game on console, it might not be that big of a problem, though I can't really weigh in on it because I haven't tested this game on console at all. However, with less than a month to go to live release, the terribly clunky and miserable to use UI is going to be a very real thing for us PC players. Menus are a plague of menu, submenu, sub-submenu clicking. with a little bit of needing to hit escape to back out of each single step where you were, and in some cases the dreaded hold down escape for a few seconds to retreat to the last menu. The VIP demo also has some serious issues with displaying information properly. I can't count how many times I've been in a free roam and opened up my social menu to see how many players were in my squad so that I could invite friends into the game for Anthem to say, hey, yeah, you're playing solo. And I would try to invite a friend, and then only after them saying, dude, the game's full, man, would the squad roster finally update to show that, hey, you are in fact in a full group. This is made even further frustrating with group icons. You have no clear indicator of where your party is when you start free roam, should you join a session already in progress or start on the other end of the world map, because Anthem only shows a group player icon when you're in close proximity. There is absolutely zero reason that these group member dots couldn't remain active at range on your compass at the very least, since it otherwise does a terrible job of being utilized, as it only shows icons for things that are nearby anyways. Which leads me to the next utterly infuriating and totally ridiculous issue with this game. In Anthem, there are no map markers to be placed. If you open up your map, you can see icons for your group, dungeons, stronghold locations, what have you, but you cannot place any custom markers, which in Anthem's world of moderately large play area, combined with its incredible use of vertical play space, it's a huge annoyance. I find myself constantly having to open up and close my map while flying around to guide myself into teammates. Oh hey, did I mention that BioWare learned absolutely nothing from Destiny and has no group chat currently? Yeah, that's a huge problem.
But Failure, there's voice chat.
Yeah, there is, which is defaulted in the off setting, just like in Destiny. Remember all those times you played Destiny and some rando blueberry would screw everything up because you couldn't talk to them and be like, hey dumbass, stop killing the thing, we need to wait to do this thing in order to trigger heroic. Get ready for some more of that pure bliss in Anthem, because that's exactly what we've set up. Now, these are all incredible quality of life annoyances, and some of them are actually pretty hindering to the game's experience, but overall, Anthem has been a blast. When the servers aren't tanking to the point of needing hours to log in or sticking you in an infinite loading screen when joining a mission or a free roam, the gameplay in this game is honestly incredible. Like, I have no doubts that I will enjoy the full game on release. At this point, my biggest concern is whether or not Anthem will keep me engaged at endgame enough to be more than the log in, do my weekly, daily, and log out, because there's literally no other reason for me to keep playing beyond that, aka Destiny. And one of the most incredible things I noticed while playing with friends was that every javelin type, the game's classes, feel incredibly useful. The Colossus, the game's de facto tank javelin, it's not just a threat magnet that makes playing it feel like a chore versus a fun experience. The Colossus drops mortar bombs that deal serious damage, and it actually feels like it's part of the fight and not just a tank in other games. The Storm Javelin, for instance, hovers over the battlefield, setting up combos and dealing serious AoE damage in encounters. And the Interceptor, it dashes across the battlefield to pick off high-threat targets before pulling back to the safety of the group. Every Javelin frame feels like it's rewarding to play and has yet a unique bonus to add to the fight. Yet, because they are all so well balanced as a standalone class with their incredible loadout flexibility, you don't really feel like you're hindered for not having the right makeup for an encounter. I've done the hardest difficulty stronghold in the demo with one of each of the 4 javelins, and I've done it with 2 squishy interceptors and 2 jack-of-all-trade rangers. Neither group felt like the makeup stood out as detrimental, and that we weren't all able to play the javelin we enjoyed. We were all able to play whatever we wanted to play, versus feeling roped into a certain class makeup for that encounter. However, speaking of playing with friends, there is one major issue I do have with Anthem's gameplay, and that's being forced into playing with other people. You cannot do free roam or stronghold solo. The game forces you to queue into matchmaking versus being able to start it in privacy mode, which means you pick up 3 other randoms. This is a huge issue to me because this game has a crafting system, which means farming materials. If I want to jump into free roam and just go running around materials farming, I'm screwing over 3 other people who aren't getting that 4th man because I'm off picking up alien flowers. And while you can leave free roam at any time when you want, it just feels stupid to force me to group with other players for no reason. Even The Division has open world play as a solo player. BioWare, this is stupid. Please change it, because it's a terrible decision. Alright, now, one of the other major things I feel needs to be addressed in this video is microtransactions. I've seen a lot of really ignorant people blindly bashing Anthem without even having played it, solely because it's being published by Electronic Arts and it's going to have a cash shop. So let's clear some crap up really quick. Anthem's cash shop is entirely cosmetic. All of the cosmetics that you buy in Anthem are direct purchases. If there's a skin, emote, or material shader you want to buy, you purchase that item outright. No shady engram slot machine like Destiny or other games where you have to buy 10 loot boxes before you get the one item you actually want. If you want an item, you buy it and done. No BS. Furthermore, all of these cosmetics can be bought with either in-game currency or real money transactions. So not only does Anthem's cash shop provide no pay-to-win cheaty crap, but you don't have to use real money at all. Like, ever. Why does this matter? Not only is this system one of the best methods of implementing real money transactions, but BioWare has explicitly stated that they will be offering this cosmetic cash shop as an alternative to having paid DLC. So, unlike other games, looking at you, Destiny, you won't have to shell out $30 for a short 3-hour story DLC and a couple dungeons which are just reused level assets from the short crap campaign that you paid $30 for. BioWare has promised Anthem as a living, breathing, constantly updating world, and you won't have to pay anything extra to enjoy that, because people like me will be more than happy to fund your DLC experience by spending real money for skins and junk. Now, I'm not trying to fanboy or shill for EA here. They are absolutely a terrible company, no dispute. The practices they've employed towards microtransactions in the past have been some of the worst out there, but Anthem's BioWare team has been very detailed in describing how they plan to monetize Anthem post-launch, where most studios make a very intentional point of PR and lawyer speaking about these things so that they can leave room to go, well, that's not what we said, actually. Furthermore, I'm not recommending anybody run out to their local retail store or jump on Origin and buy Anthem right now. Look, if you're on the fence because you don't trust EA, stay put right there and wait. No one is going to judge you for not being on Anthem day one. You should absolutely do what you feel is right if you've been burned by EA and you just don't trust them enough to let Anthem do its thing. What I can say though, is after playing the alpha test and now the VIP demo, is that Anthem has been a ton of fun. When the game works and the servers aren't imploding, it's easily some of the most fun I've had on a shooter in a long time. There are definitely some serious quality of life improvements I hope BioWare has on their to-do list, especially as a PC player, but for the most part, even if what we have right now in terms of gameplay feel and UI is what we get on launch next month, I'd honestly still have a ton of fun playing Anthem with my friends. So, that's a snapshot look at Anthem. While I don't think this game is going to reinvent gaming or anything milestone breaking, I can say that it's been a blast to play. It feels very fresh, and for a shooter, I'm having a lot of fun with it. And every time BioWare has run one of these demos, I've been left wanting more of the game to play. So, while I still won't try to convince anyone who is holding out that they should buy it, I definitely do think that this game is going to be something to keep an eye on if you're a fan of the RPG shooter genre. At any rate, I'm FailureToReport, and I'll see you out there, freelancer.